I've always had a thirst for nature and the sense of adventure that often goes along with it. I live in Los Angeles, where we have some beautiful mountains, but my daily routine consists more of a concrete creek. I write music for film and television and have long desired to dabble back into my concert music roots. In 2015, I joined a man named Steve Lias to Denali National Park in Alaska. The program he ran, called Composing in the Wilderness, seemed perfect for me, and we became great friends. This year, he was starting the more extreme version, an immersive backcountry experience. With congressional approval, I couldn't resist. While it was heart-wrenching to leave my family behind, I knew the adventure would make me a better man and give me more appreciation for my life. It certainly did just that. We arrived in Fairbanks, and after a brief orientation, we were off on a small plane to the remote town of Coldfoot. From there, we were shuttled by an even smaller plane to Gates of the Arctic National Park, where we would embark on our journey. We landed on a small gravel bar on the North Fork of the Koyokuk River. We had a spectacular view of the gates themselves. The next morning, I took a good hike and played my shakuhachi by the river. I even caught a glimpse of the goshawk I had heard the night before. The weather was spectacular. I was partnered with my new friend Alex, and after assembling our canoes, we packed them, and without further ado, we were off. Novices, we worked together carefully, Alex primarily steering off on my direction, and me providing power when needed. And while there was some drama with the other boats, Alex and I proved to be a great fit. After a relatively short day of paddling, we settled into another beautiful campsite, and I really started to understand Alaska's lure. It is stunning, wild, and seductively dangerous. While there are lots of trees, that's about the only sign of life unless you look closer. As Andy, our guide, called it, this is hungry country. Day 2 paddling proved to be extremely challenging. We got caught by a sweeper, a canoeer's name for a downed tree, early, but were able to self-rescue. Andy was able to shuttle our canoes through some violent rapids. But that was the easy part.
Harder, harder, harder.
After successfully navigating much of a narrow channel of New River, we simply didn't have the skill to avoid what was in store for us next.
We're gonna have to eddy out here. I can't imagine. Okay, let's go right. Right. I have no idea how we're gonna do this, but we'll try our best. Go left, 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 left. Okay, we're gonna hit it. Okay.
The tree kept me, mostly submerged, sandwiched between it and another, the river slowly driving me under. As I hung on for dear life, Alex was able to shimmy himself to shore. I tried, but was stuck. The boat was gone, later retrieved by our guide. As I hung on, I drew strength from knowing I would likely survive and see my family once again, but would need to bring my best in order to do so.
By the time I got there, Alex was out of the water on the opposite bank, and it had been close to 2 minutes probably. And a person starts to lose control of their digits and their dexterity within that cold water. I said, "You're gonna be okay," and you had the confidence and wherewithal to stay there and hang on. You explained that your legs were between some sort of obstacle underwater and that you're afraid to get pinned in there.
Okay, there's a branch right here that the rope is gonna touch on. I'm resting on a branch underneath me.
1, 2, 3. Bring the rope, grab the rope like an all-star, and you white-knuckled that thing. You were never gonna let go of.
Seconds after I was safe on shore, another of our team was pulled out of the water after enduring a similar event. Raw and cold, an hour later, I recorded this message for my family.
I'm glad I get to see you guys again. I love you. This is insane. I'll tell you more about it another time.
The last thing I thought of as I drifted to sleep that night was opening the front door of my house and having my precious little girl run up to me. And it was the first thing I thought of again when I awoke a few hours later. The next day we had no choice but to press on. We were in an extremely remote area. We were able to guide our canoes through a creek to the main channel, which, lucky for us, was just a few hundred meters away.
1, 2, 3,
This day proved to be our first uneventful day on the expedition. We did, however, spot an abundance of raptors. It was then that the weather decided to turn on us. After a lazy morning staying dry in our tents, it was time for the full Arctic experience, paddling in the freezing rain. Lucky for us, by evening, the weather started to break. The sun showed its face. After setting up camp one final time, drying out our ever-wet clothes, we were treated to an amazing show of light. The final morning, I broke down camp, shuttled my gear to the canoe, and set out for the grand finale, paddling on the Koyokuk River. With our destination in sight, the ever-returning rain didn't get us down. The coldest day yet, our trusty guide / camp counselor Kate had a routine to keep us warm.
Penguins, attention! Penguins begin! Right when? Have you ever seen?
As if on cue, the weather let up again as our journey wound down. We were able to celebrate as a team at our final lunch break and on our final float. Just before the sun came out again to welcome us back into civilization, Alex indulged me for a final time. Approaching town and seeing signs of human life after a week in the untouched wilderness was truly bizarre. But I was eager to call my wife Julia, report my whereabouts, and get to writing my piece of music. We are in Bettles, which is outside of the park, and the expedition has concluded. Been quite the journey over the last 6 days, but we made it.
I think we made for a really great team in the boat. We survived a couple of scary situations. We have bonded very thoroughly.
As I contemplated my piece of art music that would be spawned by my adventure, I continued to dream of my inevitable return home to fatherhood. But Alaska's pristine beauty is like nothing else I've ever experienced. Its magnetism will certainly be drawing me back sooner than later.